Creatio has an extremely powerful process engine, which can be used to automate processes whether simple or complex. In fact, many of the default functions in Creatio are built using the process functionality and are available to be modified in the process library. We've previously done an hour-long webinar just on the process capabilities of Creatio, and even then we barely scratched the surface of everything you can do with this functionality. The process designer is visual and intuitive, allowing you to create the steps in your process and define the flow and sequence of completing those steps. You can click on any element to see and modify the parameters of that step, such as the start conditions when the process should be triggered here, where you can define exactly what those conditions are. Or for example, the conditions of this email send event, where you can define who the email is going to be sent to and what the message should say. To add new elements to your process, there's a toolbar over here on the left where you can choose from a variety of different action types. So that includes things like user actions, where we're prompting the user to do something, automated actions, where the system is doing something automatically, additional start events, wait events, end events, and gateways that you can use to route the process to one step or another based on logic. So for example, if we wanted to add a customer handover activity to this process, we can go ahead and add an add data element to our process and then define the details of exactly what we want the process to create. So we'll create an activity. We can set which fields on that activity we want to set through the process. So we can go ahead and pick from all of the different fields available on the on the task screen or activity screen. We'll go ahead and pick just a couple more here. And then once we've picked the fields that we want to set, we can set those values in a variety of ways. So some of these might be things that we just always want to set the same way. Like we always want the category of this to be a to-do, and we always want the status of the activity to be not started. We always want the subject to be customer handover. Other fields we might want to set based off of the parameters for the opportunity that is triggering this particular activity to be created. So we can pull in data from the opportunity and feed that into this particular step using process parameters. And so we can set this activity to be related to the same account and opportunity that are being used in this process. We can assign the activity to the opportunity owner. And then we can set the due date based off of the current date and time. Or maybe we don't want it to be due immediately. Maybe we want to add a few days so that the user has a few days to get this activity completed. We can go ahead and use the add days function to add a couple of days to the current date and time. Maybe we only need to do the customer handover activity if this is a new account, a new customer, and not an existing customer. So we can convert this flow to a conditional flow and define a condition that tells us when to go down this path. So this would be a new customer, which would be our description, and then we'll go ahead and define the condition. Again, we can use data that we've read from the opportunity record in Creatio. In this case, there's a flag for whether or not this is a new customer. If it is a new customer, we want to go down this path. Otherwise, we'll define a default flow. Go ahead and drag that off a little bit so we can see it, and we'll change that to the default so that otherwise it will just skip directly to the end. And we can do a lot of other things in this process. We'll just do one more quick example here. So let's say we want to update the account type field to mark this account as a customer. So again, if this is a new customer coming in for the first time, we can update the account associated with the opportunity. Again, we're going to identify that account from one of those parameters that we pulled in from the opportunity information. And then we want to modify the type column and set the type to customer. So that gives you a really quick overview of a few of the functions you can do with the process engine in Creatio.
Processes, but they're not like Creatio processes. They're more like single events. There are two types. One is related to contacts and the other one is a sales process builder. For example, you can see under the contact view for John Abbott, he's got a process running called Trade Show Follow. I'm going to simply add one as well. And these are built in another tool that comes with Infor CRM. It's a Windows-based tool, part of their legacy tools, and it'll eventually get ported over to the web and cloud. But so example, I could set what's called a casual follow-up. I schedule it, and then what it'll do is create activities behind the scenes. Here it created some activities behind the scenes to show that I followed up on, for example, a trade show. The other type of process is dedicated to opportunities. That is the sales process. So I'm going to pop into an opportunity really quick. And there's a tool for creating sales processes. So for example, I'm going to start this all over and have the sales process for new technology small business. And right away I get 1% when I complete this. And what's going on is, as you build the process, it's tracking the start date and completion date, and each of these are hot links. So this is a to-do to help you, remind you that you need to do research. But it doesn't automatically schedule the to-do. It is something that you have to auto-schedule. The other thing is the little stars mean that these are required steps. You can't bypass those steps without getting an error message or generating a message. And when you create the sales processes, you have the option to make each step mandatory or not mandatory. That is basically it for processes inside of Infor CRM. Back to Megan.